Happy Friday, guys. I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com. We've got a bunch of new phones in the house, some of which have come from CES 2012, but some of these devices are coming in from overseas because, after all, we got PhoneDog fans everywhere. So this one is an international goodie. It's the HTC Sensation XL. Now, this thing packs a single-core 1.4 gigahertz processor, a 4.7-inch display, an 8-megapixel camera on the back with 720p HD video recording, and Android 2.3 with HTC Sense version 3.5. It also has Beats integration out of the box, and it comes with a nifty little pair of Beats headphones. So this is an XL device for XL hands. Get it? XL, Sensation XL. I thought it was funny, but hey, it's Friday. Give me some credit. The Sensation XL, we're going to do a full review on this and see if this is a device you should get. Maybe you should bring it in from overseas if you're in the US, or if you should wait for something else. But first, some love to Best Buy Mobile. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, your web, your call settings, your camera settings, and more. So when you walk out that door, your phone's set up. It's ready to go at Best Buy Mobile. They hook us up with a ton of phones, kind of like this, for use in our one-paw bandit game. Let's take a look. HTC Sensation. So for part 2 of this video, let's go ahead and jump right in to the speed test numbers so we can take a look. I'm going to load up Quadrant Standard on this device so we can do kind of a rough test. And it's important to note, Quadrant Standard, like any other benchmark tool, is not to be taken incredibly serious. You know, take this with a grain of salt, but this will give you kind of a rough idea as to what the device can do. I've seen devices that perform very well in day-to-day performance get low scores, and vice versa. So devices get, 3,000 scores and they don't perform well in day-to-day environments. So keep that in mind, but still, call quality's been pretty decent on this device. The wireless radio is pretty good. If you remember back to my Evo 3D and Sensation 4G reviews, I kind of criticized HTC for a less than perfect wireless radio. It seems like they've kind of fixed that in the Sensation XL. I took this to an AT&T dead spot in South Charlotte and was able to make a call. Now, it's pretty choppy and almost dropped it, but it never actually dropped the call. It got pretty close, but it did maintain the call. Earpiece volume's nice and loud as well. And surprisingly, and I'm assuming this is because of the single-core processor, this 1,600 milliamp hour battery, it's been pretty decent. It's not the best in the world by any means, and if it were a dual-core processor, it'd be terrible. But with a single-core processor, I've been relatively pleased. 2024 on Quadrant Standard, but I've been relatively pleased with the battery life with moderate use. Now with heavy use, you're not going to make it through the day. Carry a spare car charger, but with moderate use, I've been able to roughly 8 to 10 hours before the device requires a recharge. So given a pretty large screen, that's not bad at all. So you've got a front-facing camera and then an 8-megapixel camera on the back. And I should clarify that is pretty bad, but in the state of smartphones in 2012, that's pretty much what we can expect. So I'm going to bring over the Droid Razr here so we can take a look at this with the 8-megapixel camera. You've got an 8-megapixel shooter with 720p HD video recording on this bad boy. So not 1080, just 720p, but you can see it's focusing in, and you've got the typical HTC settings here with effects. I can click over here and change the effects if I want to. I can do dots. I can do vintage. I can do vintage warm. Let's do a vintage picture. Make it a vintage picture. We can go to our gallery. We can switch the mode of the camera right around pretty easily between front and back, or between photo and video on the two respective cameras. And then you've got auto, for flash. Then you've got your settings down here as well for pictures, ISO, white balance, and more. So we'll focus in. We'll take a picture here, and we'll get it to focus in. Nope, I don't like that. Let's get it to focus in. Let's see here. And let's take that. There we go. That's a little bit better. And we'll go to the gallery and take a look. And there it is. So pinch to zoom, very responsive. And I just can't get over the responsiveness of this device. Very impressive. Again, given the specs being a little bit lower than most of the high-end devices in America right now. Not just in America, but around the world, with their dual-core processors and quad-core stuff on the way. But you can clearly see the Verizon logo, the Motorola logo, and 4G LTE connectivity, or 4G LTE logo, rather, on the back of the Motorola Droid Razr Max. So definitely impressive. It's not going to replace your point and shoot by any means. It does only shoot video in 720p. So if you are a big video buff, keep that in mind. But still, pretty impressive given how thin the device is and given the profile. So you've got the typical Android setup here, and we'll go into all apps. You've got a couple of different features. We're going to go into the market just for a second so you can see some of the changes there if you don't watch the Android videos very often. And you can see I was downloading speed tests. I just want to show you how the market's changed, and this won't take longer than a few seconds. But I want to show you that everything's grouped now by apps, books, music, and movies. So you've got a couple of different options. The Android market's quickly intended to be they're quickly working to make it, rather, the one-stop shop, kind of like iTunes and kind of like that iTunes ecosystem that you see on iOS. You can get your music, your books, your movies, and your apps all from one place. You can really see that edge connectivity playing a role there. We can go back and see, you want a song, download it from the Android market. You want a movie, rent it from the Android market. You want an app, download it from the Android market. You can do it all in one spot. And you can see, of course, it's undergone some aesthetic changes as well, with kind of a black/gray color scheme, along with apps, music, books, and movies pre-installed there. Now, again, we're on Edge right now, so it's loading pretty slowly, but you can kind of get a picture of how it looks. And then otherwise, Sense is pretty unchanged, at least in terms of the overall look and feel, especially if you're used to a device like the Rezound or the HTC Mirror on Verizon. Currently, those are the two that have Sense 3.5 in the US. But we'll go over here to a new Note and you can take a look. And so this is great for classes, HTC's Notes application. You can come over here and you can record. So we could be recording the video or recording myself talking right now, and then I can say, we're doing a lecture on Phone Dog, so not that, Phone Dog, not 50 Dog, Phone Dog. And so I can be taking notes in Phone Dog class while it's recording, and I can remember that I say stuff like, holy moly, cheese and rice. Holy moly. And you're going to need to know that for the test next Wednesday. So we're going to say holy moly, cheese and rice. That's a good key phrase to remember. And then I can hit save. And so I've got the recording over here. When I'm done, I can go ahead and get rid of that. And then I can hit save. And then I've got the notes along with the actual recording as well. I'm recording myself talking right now. And then I can say, we're doing a lecture. So that's a pretty nifty little feature that comes pre-installed on the device. Very useful. And then, of course, you've got HTC Mirror, just for those times you need to look at yourself in the phone. I mean, you may need to check the hair, may need to, make sure everything's looking good. You're going out to catch some fly ladies or, fly guys, whatever. This could be a make or break application for you. So then you have the HTC stuff. And then you also have one other thing I wanted to point out. You got flashlight, things like that, some stuff that's obviously from HTC. But one other thing I wanted to point out is a speed test as well. So even though it's running on Edge, we're just going to do a brief speed test here just to see what we're kind of compare Edge to Edge and see what we get right now. But again, take it with a grain of salt. If you're outside of the Carolinas, you should get AT&T 3G connectivity in most places, as long as you're in an area that has 850 megahertz 3G connectivity. Now, obviously, you're seeing some low speeds here because, like I said, AT&T operates almost exclusively in the 1900 megahertz frequency in North and South Carolina, and this thing does not have 1900 megahertz support, so it only supports 850, 900, and 2100. So very much a European device and no capabilities at all for T-Mobile 3G connectivity. So just keep that in mind if you are interested in bringing this thing in from overseas. So it's loading up, 207 kilobits per second, not terrible for Edge, but those are the kind of numbers you're going to see if you're in an area that's Edge connectivity and not 3G. So a little bit of a disappointment, but still I'd love to see this thing support 1900 megahertz, but it doesn't. So we're going to move on from that. The Gmail application, take a look at this as well. No real changes here over previous builds of HTC Sense. Now, one thing that's particularly interesting to me on this device, this is built as a music device, obviously, because it has Beats by Dr. Dre audio built in, or Beats integration, if you will. It's got go to Spring Break Party Cruise, because everybody wants a party cruise, right? It's got Beats by Dr. Dre built in, and it's got that integration there, but it only has 16 gigabytes of memory, and there's no expandable memory on this device. So that's kind of confusing to me, because you'll notice there's no micro SD card slot. So when you hit that 16 gigabyte mark, you're out of luck, and it's actually going to power off, I think. Or, hang on. Whoa! Oh! Fail. Knocked it in the floor. That's okay. Accomplished my point anyway. Pulled the battery door off. Sometimes that's what you have to do, right? So you can see there's no extended or removable memory here. 16 gigabytes pre-installed, and that's it. So once you run out of 16 gigabytes and you got your songs on here, you can't add anything else. So you've really got to pick and choose the songs that you want, which I just find kind of interesting given the fact that this device centers around music. At the very least, they should have made like a 16, a 32, a 64 version, or maybe a 16 and a 32, or a 32, 64, whatever. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with built-in memory, but I'm saying there's no option to get one with a higher memory capacity once you do run out of songs, or run out of space. So, if you have a big music collection, this may not be the device for you, because while it does have Beats audio built in, and it does come with the headphones, and it's intended to be a music device, you can only store so many songs before it's out of space. So that was particularly interesting to me as well. So overall, the Sensation XL, I'm really impressed with it. It's a decent device, and I'm really surprised just at how fast this thing is. You know, I've been the first on the forefront of kind of criticizing HTC or pushing HTC a little bit, you know, since 3.5, at least in the US on devices like the Rezound, it's a little bit laggy from time to time. I do see some stutter, and I'm like, you know, for a 1.5 gigahertz dual-core device like the Rezound, I see a little bit of lag, and I'm like, that's, you know, kind of unacceptable on a $300 device. But then I look at this with a single-core processor, with a 1.4 gigahertz single-core processor, and I'm like, this thing flies. Like, it performs really well, and my hope is that we can get this kind of fluidity on a device in the States, because really, it performs, it's loading up right now, but really, it performs really well given this single-core processor. It's got a nice big display, and so if you really like the HTC Titan, but you really want Android on the Titan, this is going to be the device for you, so you can bring it in unlocked through Expansys USA or Negri Electronics, some of these online retailers. Otherwise, take a look and wait and see what comes out from CES 2012. Some hot devices were announced. Maybe the Galaxy Note on AT&T's your device. Maybe some of the new Verizon 4G LTE devices are for you. But otherwise, if you're in an area where the Sensation XL is available and storage space isn't a huge deal to you, this is an awesome device that I think you'll really enjoy. Much more coverage to come on PhoneDog.com with the Sensation XL. We're going to pit this thing in a dogfight with the HTC Rezound. So you have international device versus HTC Rezound on Verizon with a dual-core processor but with a little bit more lag. Which one will win? You'll just have to find out. Keep it locked on the site for continuing coverage. Be sure to like us on Facebook, facebook.com/PhoneDog. We're always doing stuff on there. I'm on there right now actually talking to some of the Facebook fans. So check it out, facebook.com/PhoneDog, and also hit me up on Twitter at PhoneDog_Aaron and let me know what you think of this device. You think it's awesome? You think, you know, you should spend $700 to bring this thing in from overseas? Or you think, you know, I'm going to wait and see what happens from some of the CES devices. Let me know, PhoneDog_Aaron, and on Facebook at facebook.com/PhoneDogAB. It's definitely a crazy time in mobile, that's for sure, between the Droid Razr Max, the Skyrocket, the Sensation XL, and a bunch of other devices. Actually, that's just all I had on my desk right now, so I just pulled those over into the camera. But it's a wild world right now in mobile, so keep it locked on PhoneDog.com as we continue to dissect these devices and really see what comes in 2012. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.